What does it take to cut a ship into two halves? To strip down and reassemble a giant plane? To overhaul the world's longest high-speed train? It takes hundreds of professionals, expertise, precision, and courage.
It's never been done before.
Pushing everyone to the limit.
It is surely a challenging job.
Now on Mega Pit Stops. The Peter Pan, a monstrous car ferry. 2 football fields long and 35 meters high. The Swedish ferry can fit 540 cars and 744 passengers. But that's not enough anymore. Peter Pan needs to grow even larger and increase its cargo capacity by 25%. What the engineers have in store for this mega pit stop is prodigious. They will lengthen the Peter Pan from its current 190 meters to 220 meters. To do so, they will cut the ferry into 2 parts and insert a 30-meter-long section. Lengthening the ship means changing its flow properties. Thus, the Peter Pan's bulbous bow has to be swapped out and its engine overhauled. At the stern, an additional deck provides space for over 100 extra cars. For all this, the team only has 75 days. The Baltic Sea, just off the coast of Germany. The Peter Pan is on the way to its mega pit stop. Swedish Captain Hans Windqvist has been in command of the ferry for 2 years. The purpose of his last voyage with the old Peter Pan is to arrive at the shipyard on time.
There were a couple of questions from the shipyard. If we were on time or running late, or even the agent and the shipping company were in touch. So yes, I've had a couple of calls and some emails.
Time is running short, even before the mega pit stop begins. 60 workers are on board during this final crossing to the shipyard to prepare the ship for its expansion. In a few days, the workers will cut the ship apart along these markings. The paint has to be removed along the cutting line beforehand, from a surface totaling nearly 1 kilometer. While everyone works at full throttle below deck, the Peter Pan approaches its destination at full speed. German dry docks in Bremerhaven. The shipyard specializes in repairing and modifying ships. A team of 40 workers has been working for several weeks to prepare the 215-meter-long dock for the arrival of the Peter Pan. Time for one last check. Project manager David Porath measures the dock blocks one more time. This is where the ship will rest during its mega pit stop. He and his team have planned the car ferry lengthening for nearly a year.
I also have to say, this is the very first ship expansion that I'm actually responsible for. I worked on one before, but I've never been in charge of one in that sense. I wouldn't say I'm nervous, but there's a certain amount of tension. The type of work we do here is challenging, for sure.
David Porath carries the responsibility for the mega project. The shipyard will only be able to meet the delivery deadline for the new Peter Pan if all the work goes according to schedule over the next 2.5 months. That afternoon, the ferry arrives at its destination on time. Tugboats maneuver the steel colossus into the shipyard. Maneuvering on its own in the narrow basin would be unthinkable. Captain Hans Windqvist pulls up to the pier for final preparations. By early evening, everything is ready for docking. The man responsible for the smooth operations during this process is Dockmaster Frank Höchst. He's been in charge of the dock for 25 years, but expanding the Peter Pan is an extraordinary challenge, even for him.
This is a serious undertaking. It even has me nervous.
Frank Höchst floods the tanks of the floating dock, causing it to sink. The massive volume of 35 million liters of water rushes in. Frank Höchst only has about 2 meters of leeway on either side of the ship during docking. After the expansion, the ferry will extend beyond the front and back of the dock. The front section will not be moved during the whole mega pit stop. Frank Höchst has to position the ship precisely on the bracing. After an hour, the dock is low enough.
Yes, Höchst here. So the dock is almost where we want it. We have a depth of 6.2 meters. You can bring her in now.
Hi.
Hi.
Everything okay?
Yes, it's starting now.
Captain Hans Windqvist guides his old ship in one last time. A bit of nostalgia hangs in the air.
It's a bit exciting to be growing by that much. And this is our last time driving the Peter Pan, so to speak. It's going to be rather difficult to take on such narrow passages as soon as we're 30 meters longer.
Turning the Peter Pan in front of the dock, unthinkable. Hans Windqvist has to bring it in backwards.
I've got to get through here. I must look at the corner.
Frank Höchst is the captain's eyes. He tells him how much space there is left. One small mistake and the ship crashes into the dock walls. They did it. Hans Windqvist did a pristine parking job.
We're almost there. We just need to get it done now. This is perfect.
You can stop now. We still have about 5 meters to go. We'll do the rest.
The workers pull the ship to the designated final position using rope winches.
That's fine. That's where the ship will be cut.
The first hurdle has been overcome. Now, the mega pit stop can begin.
We're happy. The boat is parked and sitting on the blocks. It went well, and we did it quickly. We can be pleased with the result and call it a night soon.
During the night, the workers pump the dock back up. Only now can we finally get a close look at the ferry's impressive dimensions. It's as heavy as 25 A380 airplanes and as high as a 20-story building. David Porath is already making the rounds again early in the morning. He's checking the preparations for cutting the ship apart. His team now severs hundreds of cables, lines, and pipes along the cutting line. The ship can only be reassembled later if everyone works carefully now. Thus, they have only 5 days for this step. To save time, David Porath wants to already start cutting the first sections.
All the necessary access work has been completed, and we can start here now.
The greatest challenge in the process, guiding the complicated cut. the shipping company only wants to increase the cargo space. To leave the passenger area untouched, the ship engineers apply a very special cutting method, the Z-cut. First, there is a vertical cut from the bottom to a height of 19 meters, followed by a horizontal cut of 35 meters. In between, after 17 meters, they cut along the funnel chimney wall. That's the only way to leave the whole passenger space in one piece. To maintain the structural integrity of the steel colossus for as long as possible, the team cuts from the inside out. They use a method which is known as autogenous flame cutting. A mixture of oxygen and acetylene gas heats the steel along the cutting line and then burns it at 1500 degrees Celsius. An important milestone has been reached. The project manager is satisfied.
That's exactly the way it's supposed to be. We've started cutting the ship. That's good.
The team has to slice along a line that is 1 kilometer long. Clock is ticking. From now on, they will work 24/7. In total, David Porath's team needs 5 days. Then they have done it. The huge ship is cut in half. There are just a few centimeters of space between the two parts of the ship now. The Z-cut leaves the passenger area freely suspended after removing the aft ship. Due to its heavy weight of 850 tons, it would collapse without additional support. Thus, a supporting system stabilizes the overhang so that the engineers can push the stern backwards. After 18 meters, they assemble 4 support towers to transfer the load step by step. In total, 6 support towers are stabilizing the Peter Pan's foreship to make room for the middle section. Moving the back half of the ship is a mammoth undertaking. It weighs 6,500 tons. This important step is his responsibility, Kai Hoyer. He specializes in transporting heavy loads. Kai Hoyer and his team push the 80-meter-long aft ship away from the front half using a hydraulic sled system. While preparations are being made under the hull, project manager David Porath checks the cutting line one last time. Pulling the halves of the Peter Pan apart will only work if his team has made a clean cut. Even though David didn't find any flaws, he is concerned.
There are so many edges that we can't expect everything to go completely smoothly. There are going to be some sections that we'll have to cut through again.
There is a risk of steel snagging along the lines of the cut, so the project manager only wants to move the aft ship a few centimeters to start with.
Nastro to all teams, everything ready to move. Is Lastro ready too? Let's get started.
The cylinders exert 210 tons of pressure to start moving the aft ship.
10 centimeters? 10 centimeters. Yes, I stopped. That was the first 10 centimeters.
Time for a check. In a worst-case scenario, parts of the ship could bend out of shape if the massive steel walls get caught. This would make it impossible to reassemble the car ferry later.
Can we start pushing? Can we start pushing? Yes? Good. Okay, good. We can start pushing now.
Little by little, Kai Hoyer pushes the halves of the gigantic ship further apart. But then, the joists are at risk of snagging.
Stop below, please.
Copy, stop.
The workers have to go back to cutting. The ambitious schedule is in jeopardy. While David Porath's team tries to solve this problem, the midsection of the ferry is being made about 200 kilometers away at a shipyard in Hamburg. Its dimensions, 30 by 30 meters. It will be inserted into the Peter Pan as a finished part. Engineer Simon Wittek is responsible for the construction of the so-called mid-body.
We still have to grind a little bit there, and these pores have to be removed. You have to check everything, every single welding seam, to see if there are any inclusions or pores left. In the worst case scenario, water can permeate the sides. No one wants to think about these things, but that is what could happen in the worst case.
The center section is made up of 22 prefabricated components. These sections can weigh up to 100 tons. Almost like they're building with Lego, the workers put together all the components until they form a complete section of the ship. To make sure it will fit into the Peter Pan later, the ends are produced with an extra 50 centimeters of safety margin on each side.
It's almost like a baby. You watch it grow, but I also look forward to the moment when everything comes together. I ask myself if everything will fit, but I'm proud to just be a part of it.
There is still a lot to do, and things are tight here too. According to the timetable, the engineers will already be installing the midsection into the Peter Pan in 7 days. Back in Bremerhaven. This is where space for the midsection is being made. But there are problems. Several steel beams have snagged. Now the workers have to cut again. Precious time is being lost. Kai Hoyer tries to stay calm.
When there are this many unknown rough edges, you just have to be a little patient. That's just the nature of it. We are happy that it can be solved like this.
At this point, Hoyer's team has only moved the aft ship back by 2 meters. They've been playing the waiting game for hours. But then...
Go for it. We're ready.
All right, we're going to start.
Time for the next attempt. Now they will see if the team took care of all the problem areas, or if Kai Hoyer will have to call another sudden stop. Finally, it's working. Kai Hoyer pushes the 6,500-ton section of ship back further and further. An hour later, they've tackled the first 10 meters.
Wonderful, we did it.
The aft ship of the Peter Pan has finally been properly separated from the foreship. Project manager David Porath's team lost half a day, but he is happy anyway.
We had a couple of snags here and there, but we're able to solve them relatively quick and easy. It went well, as you can see. Anyway, we're happy that we have this milestone behind us now. That's it, yes, we're happy.
David Porath is one step closer to his goal of expanding the Peter Pan. Over the next few days, bit by bit, his team slides the aft ship back another 18 meters, and they set up the supports for the overhang. When they're done, there's a gaping hole around 30 meters wide between the ship's two halves. 3 weeks after the mega pit stop began, the most critical step of the project begins: inserting the midsection into the car ferry. To do so, the lower parts of the cut surfaces must be sealed up watertight before the dock is flooded. To protect the sensitive technology of the engine rooms behind the panels and prevent the ship from sinking. Tugboats pull the aft ship away to make room for the prefabricated mid-body. The engineers have to align it precisely to the foreship. Otherwise, it is impossible to connect the two parts. Then, tugboats bring the aft ship back in again. Day 29 of the mega pit stop. Today, the aft ship is scheduled to be undocked. David Porath and his colleagues developed a special system for this. Giant flotation units are designed to ensure that the rear half of the ship sits steadily on the water.
This is quite an adventure. This has never been done before. But the company that manufactures these sacks has been making things like this for a while, so it should work out just fine.
The hull becomes narrower towards the back. This means that the ship has less supporting surface in that section and would tip without support. Each of the 8 air sacs has 103 tons of buoyant force. In total, the system has 1,100 tons of buoyant force, sufficient according to calculations. But that is not the only risk factor. Huge steel panels are supposed to make sure the engine rooms remain sealed. These welding seams have to hold, otherwise the sensitive technology behind the panels is in jeopardy. Water in the engine room would be a catastrophe. While the team in Bremerhaven prepares to float out the aft ship, the midsection for the new Peter Pan is ready for its journey from Hamburg to Bremerhaven. 2 tugboats haul the 1,500-ton part of the ship over the River Elbe and the North Sea. It travels a total of 220 kilometers by sea. Its scheduled arrival at its destination is already the next day. In Bremerhaven, the aft ship still needs to be taken out of the dock.
We're all a bit tense to see whether all the theory will correspond into practice. But we're happy that it's finally starting to happen.
The job is already 2 days behind schedule. It is extremely important for David Porath and his team that now everything goes smoothly. The responsibility for this task is again in the hands of Dockmaster Frank Hurst.
Werner, please start lowering the dock.
Yeah, okay. If you have the okay, I'll get started now.
In order for the aft ship to float, Frank Hurst and his team now slowly lower the floating dock to a water depth of 5 meters. Initially, everything goes according to plan. After half an hour, the 2-meter mark has been reached, but something doesn't seem right.
Hold on, Frank.
Frank Delasse.
Frank, please go back up to 1 meter.
Okay, back up to 1 meter. We'll go back up to 1 meter. Maybe a screw connection.
There is a problem in the engine room.
Air was coming through. And where air can get through, water will come through at some point. That's why we stopped. Now we're quickly putting in a weld seam.
A weld seam in the temporary wall isn't watertight. And not just there. David Porath's colleagues discovered another leak.
It's like an emergency room.
Yes, exactly.
The leaks are still tiny. The problem, the water pressure from the outside could quickly change that. At the very worst, the aft ship will run full of water and sink. David Porath makes sure the weld seams are reinforced in the critical places.
Frank, then please go back to 2 meters. Confirmed, 2 meters.
Then I'll head over there.
Centimeter by centimeter, Frank Herkst lowers the dock back down. In the meantime, workers check all the critical points on the ship. At a water depth of 5 meters, the aft ship lifts off the dock blocks and begins to float. It's only then that the team can finally be sure if the welding seams hold or not. After 3 hours, only 80 centimeters are left until they reach the critical mark.
David to Lasse.
David, go ahead.
We have to weld here again.
Okay.
Yeah. Water's really coming in. We actually wanted to do this in daylight, but I think that's not going to happen.
One of the repaired spots still has a leak. David Porath has the seams doubled on the bulkheads. If they continue to leak, they may have to abort, and the shipyard will lose another valuable day.
We've got to get it out today so we can put the next piece in tomorrow.
The seam is now double reinforced. Frank Herkst continues lowering the dock, very slowly. So much is riding on this moment for the whole team. David Porath checks the critical spots once again. And then...
Everything's fine. Everything's watertight here. Yes, I'm happy that it's fixed.
David Porath can breathe easy for a moment. But there is still another risk factor. The giant flotation system at the back. It is supposed to keep the 80-meter-long aft ship in a steady floating position.
Let's hope everything in the back will float right. I mean, someone did all the math on this. I just hope that it stays level.
Frank Herkst can't do much more than hope now. They will only be able to know if the system works, or doesn't work, if the aft ship is finally afloat.
We're about to really start floating. Pull hard!
Come in, Mr. Herkst.
Go ahead.
The stern is floating.
Haul in the slack in front. Keep going with both spills on the south side.
They did it. The aft ship is afloat, just like the math said it would be. But there's no time to celebrate success just yet.
There's no turning back now. Yes, it's always kind of nerve-wracking. It's just nerve-wracking.
First, Frank Herxt and his team move the aft ship a few meters out of the dock using rope winches, because the tugboat's draft is too deep to enter the dock. Attaching the tugboat requires full concentration. If it comes too close to the stern, its propeller could rip open the floating system's air sacs. But everything is running smoothly now. The tugboats pull the aft ship a few hundred meters further down the pier. It will remain there for the time being. According to the timetable, it will be back in the dock in 2 weeks.
Everything's fine. We'll fasten it now and then go home. Yes, that's what we'll do.
The whole team breathes a sigh of relief.
Super. Great. We got the thing out. Everything worked out pretty well. That's good. I'm satisfied.
The team has overcome an important hurdle in the mega pit stop. The next step, docking the midsection and connecting it to the foreship. Day 30 of the ship expansion. The workers prepare to dock the midsection. They're about halfway through the time they've been given to deliver to the shipping company. And the Peter Pan has a long way to go before it's actually finished. The team is 3 days behind schedule, but they can't let that distract them. They're going to need to give all the concentration they can muster into the docking process.
We're about to start. We have to approach from 30 meters beneath the ship, which means we can't come in crooked by even half a meter on the other side. It has to be positioned extremely carefully.
Two tugboats maneuver the steel colossus to the edge of the dock, but the tugboat at the front can't drive into it. The mid-body is now floating without being guided. It is only being pushed by the second tugboat.
Five meters are in.
Count down the last 10 meters, okay?
Will do. I'm heading to the back.
The team stabilizes the midsection with ropes. That's how they keep it from crashing against the dock wall.
It's going well. Sometimes it's also good to have some things go smoothly.
Meter by meter, the dockmaster and his team move the midsection up to the first braces. They've done it. The steel colossus is safely in the dock. The next step, aligning the mid-body with the foreship with millimeter precision. Even the tiniest deviation in one direction will make it impossible to connect both ship sections. One man is responsible for the precise alignment of both sections of the ship. Surveyor Jan Munkholm. As the Danish member of the team, he is considered an eminent authority in his field and has even worked for NASA. Even though both parts weigh thousands of tons, now it comes down to millimeters.
Which one do you want to?
It's too high now.
What is too high?
Section.
Yeah, okay.
So we need to move the truck to the side. Load.
The midsection is crooked. To make it level, workers place weights on the top deck.
How much? 60. That's fine. Tim, we read 60 here.
After about 3 hours, not only Jan Munkholm is happy.
Back. Okay. Now, we're down there. We're down. We're down.
We aligned them within 1 or 2 millimeters, and now I'm happy.
The next step, pumping the dock up and pushing the midsection meter by meter towards the foreship. Then it's the welder's turn. In total, 4 kilometers of weld seam will be needed to connect both sections. 2 weeks later, the old foreship and the new mid-body have been joined to create a 140-meter-long section of the ship. Now, David Porath's team can bring the aft ship back into the dock and connect it. The following morning brings a heavy fog. Visibility is under 30 meters. This is catastrophic for the team. For the docking process, the weather conditions have to be perfect. Otherwise, it is just too risky. But the shipyard can't afford to lose another day. In 6 weeks, the Peter Pan should go into service again for the shipping company.
We need visibility of at least 100 to 150 meters, and we don't have that. But we don't have any wind, which is good. Now we have to decide what to do.
The responsible port pilot has to make the final decision.
We hope he'll do it. You have to be able to see the tugboats in the dock. When I look over there, I don't even see the dock anymore.
The pilot gets a feel for the situation from the deck of the ship. Visibility is close to zero. Parking the steel giant with millimeter precision in these conditions is practically impossible. One more time, Dockmaster Frank Hurst goes through all the eventualities with him.
We're going to start now. We're moving now.
Despite the bad weather, the team is now attempting to dock the 80-meter-long aft ship. Everyone's nerves are on edge.
Throw it in! Throw it in the water! Take it away.
The maneuver once again requires the utmost concentration. Once it gets going, the 6,500-ton steel giant isn't easy to stop. If the poor visibility causes the pilot to overestimate the distance, the aft ship could slam against the dock. The tugboat at the front once again drives off before it reaches the dock. Now, the team has to get the steel giant under control as quickly as possible with their ropes.
So, careful here. Go over there. Yes. We'll go straight for the long ones.
Things are getting close on one side. Really close.
The back has to move a little more. Now we have it. Oh, the sensors. Christian, pull a little harder.
A quick moment of shock, but then the dock team has the floating part of the ship back under control.
Keep pulling it through. Now we're winning.
The back of the ship is in the dock. Meter by meter, the team now uses rope winches to pull it towards the front section.
That was really something you don't see every day.
They did it. 44 days after the mega pit stop began, all parts of the Peter Pan are finally in the dock.
Now you could say we've got the band back together. We've got a lot of work done, but we still have a great deal ahead of us.
David Porath's team now has to reconnect the individual pieces to make a functioning ship again. And there are only 4 weeks left before scheduled delivery to the shipping company. The 40 welders have a mere 7 days to connect the aft ship to the front section of the ship. This task requires them to weld 4 kilometers of seams. All parts of the ship need to be permanently welded back together before the electricians can begin their work. 120 kilometers of new cable have to be laid and connected. The engineers also replace the Peter Pan's bulbous bow and give both of the Peter Pan's drives a good general overhaul. Despite its longer size, the Ferry's performance needs to remain the same. Specialists overhaul the 2 huge pod drives before fine-tuning them. Just one of these drives alone can deliver 11 megawatts of power. Meanwhile, at the front of the ship, another team inserts a new bulbous bow. It minimizes resistance and fuel consumption by slicing through the water in front of the Ferry. After all, the plan is that the Peter Pan won't guzzle any more heavy fuel than it did in the past, even with its new expansion. A team of painters makes sure to cover up the seams welded just a few days ago. David Porath and his team of several hundred people work around the clock, and yet they are still only able to deliver 2 weeks after the planned deadline. It's even more important that they don't discover any problems during the upcoming leak test.
The suspense is building. The ship is set to return to the water for the first time in weeks. We are checking for leaks and making sure all valves and welding seams are closed and sealed. We're about to start slowly letting water in.
The team is tense. The Peter Pan was originally supposed to be back in service 2 weeks ago. On the ship, David Porath divides everyone into teams for the inspection.
We're checking all the tanks, making sure that all the valves are sealed. There will be nothing worse than finding water leaks in.
Will the welding seams hold?
We're letting water in now. We'll set the ship down to a depth of 1 meter, and then we'll check everything.
Safety first.
If water penetrates the hull, Frank Hurst can quickly pump the dock back up. "20 minutes later, and they are ready. The dock is at the right depth. Time for the inspection to get underway. An old acquaintance joins David Porath to climb through the tanks, Captain Hans Winquist. He is keen to see for himself whether everything is sealed. The most critical area is the center section. This is where the ballast water tanks are located. They are there to balance out any uneven loads. Empty cells also keep the ship buoyant.
Nothing's here. Everything's dry.
Everything looks good to begin with. But then,
now we're in the ballast water tank. We've water here.
a nasty surprise. This could delay the ship's delivery by several more weeks. The team has to find out where the water is coming from as quickly as possible.
The sections in this area were put under pressure, and what we see here is basically just leftovers from that. I wouldn't say this was a water leak at the moment, but we have to ensure that we don't come to wrong conclusions and that water starts leaking in places where we are no longer able to repair when the ship is afloat.
All clear. The test can continue. Now, Frank Hurst lowers the dock to a depth of 4 meters. This increases the water pressure on the ship's hull, and thus also strain on the welding seams. The team once again meticulously checks every corner of the Peter Pan's hole. The inspection lasts nearly an hour.
Everything's fine. Everything's dry.
The welding seams are holding.
We still have a little bit to do, but we're on the right track, and in a few days we can return to regular service.
The inspection team didn't find anything in the other parts of the ship either.
This is just what we expected today. Everything is prepared properly.
The team needs 5 days for additional system tests. Then it's ready. The brand new Peter Pan is finished. Polished, painted, and an astounding 30 meters longer than before. It emerges in all its glory. 1,000 workers spent 400,000 hours on this mega pit stop and welded over 4 kilometers of seams in the process. The ferry now has space for over 100 extra cars.
You can't really see the seams anymore. The only people who will notice that we added a new section are the people who spent the past few months working on it. It took a lot of hard work, but we are delighted with the result.
14 weeks after it went in for the mega pit stop, the Peter Pan is finally on its way to its home port, Travemünde on the Baltic Sea. In just a few days' time, the now 220-meter-long car ferry will start transporting passengers and vehicles to Sweden again as part of its regular service.